Do you understand? Mark Gordon created software for open source information to be shared. Now, can people abuse that and put copyrighted information on the web? Yes. But at the same time, why should he be the one who has to regulate that when it's open source software? It's not even going to a website. It's LimeWire, folks. So he never actually committed copyright infringement. He didn't upload any files. He didn't share any files that would be copyright infringement, but now it's becoming more broad so they can go after the users, so they can go after people who will invent open source software that we can share information on. New York-based LimeWire claims to be the world's most popular peer-to-peer file sharing program, and if the major labels succeed in obtaining an injunction to disable the service, millions of users will see their spigot or free songs suddenly shut off. But the spigot of free songs suddenly shut off. But folks, there are torrents out there. There are offshoots of LimeWire. There are direct download websites. Hopefully they will never be able to shut them all down, because when they can shut down and regulate information, Jason Bermas, the InfoWarrior, and Infowars.com probably won't exist anymore if they get their cybersecurity czar in there, if they get their cyber Nazi bullying act passed. We are in big trouble, and this is another step towards that. But the labels won't be able to prevent users from quickly moving to other networks and software providers. See, they admit there are other networks. They admit there are other software providers. But see, they want to gun after the people that can create these programs, that can create the file sharing, because they don't want open source info. We're going to come back. The number's 888-201-2244. It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas, only at PrisonPlanet.tv and Infowars.com. We are back live. We're going to be taking your calls, 888-201-2244. Final segment of the second hour. Again, if you missed any of the program, go to the InfoWarrior.com and pick up the podcast free of charge. Become a PrisonPlanet.tv member and get the podcast in the highest quality, and see Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, my greatest film, in the highest quality over at PrisonPlanet.tv, or get a hard copy and support myself, and perhaps you could buy it with the new film, Don't Tread on Me, that we are carrying. All right, I want to finish up on this ruling could have chilling effect on peer-to-peer services. Again, somebody who is not guilty of copyright infringement is now guilty of copyright infringement. This is somebody who created open-based peer-to-peer software where I can share with other users around the world anonymously or intimately. They can go into my folders, I can find a user and share files. It's a file sharing network. Now, he didn't share any copyrighted information, but because he facilitated it through a program which anybody can download for free, by the way. LimeWire is free, another reason they're going after it. Now he is guilty of copyright infringement, and I hope this goes to the United States Supreme Court and is overturned. And even in this article, that they admit that labels won't be able to prevent users from quickly moving to other networks and software providers. To this day, the Pirate Bay, which has been found guilty by a Swedish court of facilitating infringement, encourages its visitors to download music, movies, games, software, and much, much more. See, that's a little bit deceptive. They don't actually provide you with a link to get any of those things. They provide you with a link to a torrent to get those things. So they're really a third-party facilitator of that, and maybe out of the realm of that law as well, but I'm not a lawyer out there. I'm just very upset at what's happening to the founder and chairman of LimeWire. I also wanted to retouch base on this iPhone 4G story. If you listened to my show 2 weeks ago, before I spent a week out in New York, I was talking about how the Apple iPhone 4G was left in a bar by one of the developers from Apple. The bartender picked it up. He sold it for $5,000 to Gizmodo.com. Jason Chen, the editor, was then raided. And apparently Steve Jobs demanded he be rated and this phone get brought back, and now is saying that it's cost them an insurmountable amount of cash and income because people will no longer buy the iPhone 3GS. I know I'm not going to buy the iPhone 3GS. I'm going to wait for the iPhone 4G with the front camera and the flash on the back. But here's where it gets interesting. Again, Gizmodo.com, Jason Chen, should be protected by journalists' rights. He is a journalist. He found out about that. It was newsworthy. This isn't national security after all. It's an iPhone. The person to be blamed here is the technician who works for Apple, and that's where it should stay. Instead, Steve Jobs and his Nazi corporation of Apple decided to press criminal charges. They went into Chen's home. They took his computers, his servers, his way of life, and now they're holding them. Fearing huge losses in sales after pictures leaked of its fourth-generation iPhone, Apple Inc. convinced police to launch a felony investigation, and Chief Executive Officer Steve Jobs contacted the offending website himself and tried to recover the gadget. Again, you're not national security, Steve Jobs. Hire people that aren't going to leave your prototypes at bars. This is an internal matter. This is an internal matter. This doesn't mean journalists should have to give up their sources. This doesn't mean they should be subjected to not only search, but seizure of their items for doing their job. That's why it's a big issue. That's why the InfoWarrior is covering it. All right, let's go to your calls. Bob in Missouri. Bob, you're on the line.
How you guys doing?
Good.
First, I want to thank you, both you and Alex, for having the courage to spread the information.
No problem, sir.
Believe me, I'm also familiar with the risk you guys take, so...
Well, I appreciate that. Bob, we're going to come back to you on the other side, the final and third hour of the InfoWarrior. Coming up, we're going to cover Texas School Board rewrites U.S. history with lessons excluding Thomas Jefferson. He's on the sideline. Why is that? We'll be back after this. It's the InfoWarrior.
If you believe in redemption, I'm calling to you from another dimension. If you believe in redemption, I'm calling to you from another dimension. If you believe in redemption, I'm calling to you from another dimension.
We are back live, final hour of the InfoWarrior, taking your calls, and we're on the line with Bob in Missouri. Bob, what's on your mind?
I was thanking you guys, but I was also wondering if you guys had noticed. I'm just a new member here of InfoWars. I just recently found you guys and a member of Prison Planet video, but I've been kind of aware of what's been going on myself, which is a rarity. I know many people aren't awake, it seems like, to the situation, and when you try to tell them, they laugh you off as like some kind of conspiracy theorist, or you know, they just, even when you show them proof, they just like kind of stand there and don't believe you or don't get the reaction that you would think that they would show when you show them what's going on. But I was just wondering, do you see any connection, as I did, with the Iceland volcano and the banks and their rejection of the Ice Age bill and in early March, and then you have the stock market crash on May 6th of 1,000 points, while our Senate is in session, voting on to whether or not to audit the Fed. I'm just wondering if you guys have noticed that or see any connection.
Well,
there.
A lot of times they will run these little ops where the media focuses on one event, and obviously the event that's in the backdrop is more important. And yes, HAARP does exist, but do I know that they triggered these volcanic ash eruptions? No, I don't. I did read a story today that I almost printed, and I didn't, from The Guardian, in which scientists are now saying that we're going to be seeing decades of these plumes. And actually, Richard Branson, the CEO of Virgin Airlines and the billionaire, is absolutely furious because he's losing money hand over fist on these flights that can't take place, and he's really being screwed over by this. So do I know that this is part of a government plot? Obviously not. One of the things that I haven't touched upon, which I think is extremely important, and I don't even have an article here to talk about it, but while I was out in New York, a new prime minister was installed into the United Kingdom. And who is this new prime minister? Well, it's David Cameron, and David Cameron also happens to be the first person in my film, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, to use the term New World Order. And the reason that I used him is because I could quite clearly see that he would be the next UK prime minister, because he's on boats with Rothschild family and Gordon Brown at the same time, and it's all WWE wrestling. And for those that don't know, the United Kingdom has not had an election for prime minister in 11 years. Tony Blair stepped down, gave that position to Gordon, Mr. New World Order Brown, who has talked about it dozens of times in public before he was the prime minister, after he was prime minister, and he will champion the New World Order long after his reign as the United Kingdom's prime minister. And now Cameron and Clegg are in to push the same agenda. A lot of people, again, don't realize it's been 11 years of no elections for the prime minister, supposedly one of the most important leading positions in the United Kingdom. People should be kicking and screaming, but they're not. There are so many issues right now that are in the backdrop. Let me just go into this story right here. Stocks slide as retailers' financials weigh in. And we have the head economist of the World Bank saying, hey, if China revalues their currency, we're going to slide into a deeper recession. And they won't say the word depression. And we had that 1,000-point fall a week and a half ago. Stocks fell on Friday again on a combination of weak earnings from retailers, Senate backing for limits on credit card fees, and concerns over the sustainability of the European public debt. And you notice that they throw in the instability by Senate of the credit card fees. Oh, if the credit card companies can't charge us 25% interest, well, they're just going to go under, and the banks will go under if they don't charge you a $5 fee at the ATMs. All horse malarkey, folks. We're going to come back, take your calls. It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas, only at InfoWars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv.